Hello and welcome to another episode of the Small Town Tourist Podcast, where we experience and explore everything that makes small towns great. I'm your host, Abby Graves, and today we have a super special guest. This is one that I've been looking forward to ever since I started the podcast. I knew I wanted to have him on as a guest. This is a guy who has been a huge influence in the radio industry, especially here in central Minnesota. He is the guy that you hear going, SUMMERLAND, and on countless commercials, and he was just an icon back in the 70s through mid-90s, and he's still an icon to this day. He's one of my favorite people on the planet. We are hanging out with John Uran, and I am so excited for you to hear this conversation. Please enjoy our time today with John Uran.
Then we all agree that this little town has got its ups and it's got its downs, but growing up somewhere else around wouldn't beat this place. Yeah, that's my hometown.
Basically, I'll just have you start like everyone else. Give me your name, where you're from, and what you do.
Okay. I am John Uran. I am from, that's sort of a tough spot because, this is the small town tourist, correct?
It is.
Okay. Well, you know where the little town of Santiago is? San Diego, if you're from there. It's about 25 miles east of here. And just north of that is Benton County, but that is actually in Sherburne County. So I'm on the Benton and Sherburne County line, but Foley.
You grew up in a border town.
I was probably, say that was a border town. It was weird because the Princeton school bus went by, and so did Foley, and the address of the farm was Route 1 Princeton, but because the land, the main part, we had land in both counties. The main, I guess you could say, homestead was in Benton County. We went to Foley.
That is so messed up, for lack of a better word.
It was a little strange. It was fun growing up, though. Mom and Dad were great.
The land you grew up on, did you grow up on a farm?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, what kind?
Family farm, small family farm. We had dairy and hogs. When I was real little, like 5, we had chickens. But all of a sudden, we decided to get out of the chicken business and the eggs and got the hatchets out, and we had chicken for about a year. It was really good, delicious stuff.
That's some of the best chicken you'll ever eat.
Darn right. And the color is a little darker, too, than what you buy in the store.
Did your family, when we butchered chickens, we would always write some of the names of the chickens on the bag before we put them in the freezer?
We did not name the chickens.
Yeah, it was pretty messed up, but, it's just how you grow up.
Right. That's exactly the truth. My dad got a late start in life as far as having a family. He was a veteran of World War II. He was in the United States Navy in the Aleutian Islands, way up in Alaska, because the Japanese were on those islands, believe it or not.
Really?
He was on a seaplane tender, and they would take care of PBY Catalinas and Kingfishers, which would land in the Bering Sea, taxi up to the ship, get refueled and stuff like that, go in for a bombing run or whatever. But it was a small ship, the USS Teal. He was 39 when he got married, and he met my mother at the little store in San Diego, and he used to go down there and flirt with her and buy ice cream cones from her.
Aww.
But they got married on May 12th. I don't remember the year. And then they had like 4 kids. There are 4 of us total in 5 years.
Oh my gosh, your poor mother.
Now, do you know what Irish twins are?
I do.
Okay, my brother Aaron and I are 11 months apart. So I'm older, and my sister Mary was the oldest, and then they did take a year off, and then they had Paul.
Okay.
And I keep in contact with everybody in the family. But I went to Foley High School. I graduated in 1973. My basic interest probably my junior, senior year was theater. And I really enjoyed acting up, so to speak. I wonder why. It's a prerequisite for this industry. There was a friend that I met, and he was dating a girl from Foley, but he worked for the Princeton radio station. His name was Todd Rust. And I would visit with Todd, and he'd always say, you got a great voice. You should go to radio. I said, nah, I don't think so, Todd. Well, I got a scholarship to be a theater major at Bethel College, which is down in St. Paul. And the very first year that I was there, the only year that I was there, I was in 7 plays. That's how many they do. And that doesn't mean I acted in them.
But being part of 7 is a lot.
Yeah, because when you're a freshman, you're on grounds crew, you're on set construction, lighting. The very first play was a cycle play, and I played the voice of God. No one saw me, but I had flash pots underneath these weird structures. This is a pitch black theater. And I take the flash pots and put it out when the lights went out, and then I grab a microphone, and I, pretending I am voice of God, I created the heavens and the earth, and I flip the light switch, and the flash powder goes off. I put too much in. I blinded the audience. They had to stop the show for about 20 minutes so people get their eyesight back.
Oh, no.
But there was a guy who was a junior there that looks on the program. He goes, John Uran. I gotta look this guy up. He bugged me and he bugged me and he bugged me for a month. I finally went down and saw the college radio station, and I saw the control board with all these meters and all these dials and microphones that were really cool. And I said, I can do this. I started working at the college radio station. And then I went to Brown Institute and didn't go back to college. And I graduated from Brown, I suppose it would have been spring of 75. Got my first job in Indianola, Iowa, 20 miles south of Des Moines. I lasted 6 weeks.
That's it?
That's all I could handle.
Really? So you pulled the pin on that?
I pulled the pin on that, and the station manager's name was Mel. Mel threatened me that I would never work in radio again. And I said, Mel, this never happened. You're never going to be in my resume. So, okay, thanks. When I just got out of Brown, they want you to take your cassette tape, your air check, and they want you to take your resume and visit these small town radio stations. And they want you to, if you get hired, to stay there for a year because you're always learning. And they really drill that into you. I went to a station in Litchfield, Minnesota. It was called KLFD. And I was cocky back then. And I met the program director. His name was Jim Onstad. He had a voice like Steve Cannon on WC. I'm not lying. This guy was, whoa, what a voice. And he brings me into his office, and we're sitting there and talking, and he's joking, asking questions, and laughing at me. And he goes, so, young fella, can you do news? And I said, you mean like read news? Yeah, I can do that. He says, you can? All right. He reaches back and grabs his phone. The guy on the air's name was Steve Neighbors. He goes, Mr. Neighbors, got a young fella in here. It's going to be doing news in 60 seconds. Okay, bye. Come with me. I went, what? Just come with me. He takes me into a booth that did not have a kill switch on it, just a plain old Electro-Voice microphone, hands me a news copy. It was the Associated Press news headlines at 1:30 in the afternoon, so there's 4 small stories. Mm-hmm. And he handed me an intro. He says, just say, put your name here. The temp right now is 72. And say who you are, KLFD News, and then read these 4 things. Just look in the window, and he'll give you the cue. So I put these real cheap headphones on, and I'm waiting. And Mr. Neighbors gives me the cue, and I say, it's 1:30. I'm John Uran, KLFD News. It's 72 degrees. I start into the first story. Jim sneaks up behind me with his Bic lighter, and he lights the copy on fire. I don't have a kill switch. I have nothing to put the fire out. I read all 4 stories as quickly as I could.
Oh, my gosh.
I look over here. These 2 are behind the glass, laughing their asses off at me. And he cuts to a commercial, and he comes in, he slaps me on the back. He says, I have never in my life seen anybody react the way you just did. I don't have an opportunity right now, but I am keeping your name and I am keeping your resume because I like your style.
He lit the paper.
He lit it on
as
fire.
You were reading it.
And I'm going from finger to finger, trying to get it read. Anyway, it was like 6 months later, he calls me, young fella. I said, Mr. Onstad, Jim. I said, okay, Jim. I don't have a radio gig, so to speak, and on air, but we've got an opening for a salesperson. You want to come out and meet the Mad Hatter? Daryl Hensley has his nickname, the Mad Hatter. So I came out, met the Hatter, and hired me on the spot. I started selling advertising in the fall of 1975. And I was there for 2 years. Part of my territory selling was St. Cloud.
Okay.
So I came up here and sold a couple of car dealers and stuff. And I was semi-successful. But there was a new radio station that went on the air in 1975 in St. Cloud. And they were a contemporary hit radio station. And I listened to them a lot. And in October of 1977, I brought a reel-to-reel tape up there and applied for a job. And the first person grabbed that tape and said, well, let's give it a listen. So he puts it on a reel-to-reel machine in a small studio. His name was J.J. Justin. Jim Giebel was his name. And he listens to it, and he would go back in the office, and he says, can you take constructive criticism? And I said, sure, because I want to get better. And he says, good, you suck. And then he told me why. And then another guy came in. And now JJ was the operations manager. Jack Hansen walked in, and he was the program director. And he says, who's this? And he said, this is a young guy from Litchfield who wanted to apply for a job. I go, oh, you got a tape? He says, yeah, here you go. So Jack goes in the studio by himself while JJ is telling me how to become better. And Jack comes back out, and he goes, not bad. We do have a position open, and I'd like to hire you. And I'm looking at JJ. Okay, you suck. Jack says, not bad. You're out of my way, JJ. Okay, Jack, let's talk. And I was hired at KCLD.
Just on the spot.
There. And I started November 1st of 1977 doing overnights. And that lasted for 2 weeks. And the guy that trained me in, I took his job. And then they put him on overnights. And that was Mike Bolter. Mike's out of the radio business. Still keep in contact with him. I believe he's in St. Louis.
Okay.
And from there, this was because they had to split their signal. They AM and FM. They were simulcasting, but the FCC said you can't do that. Your population's too big. Played the same identical commercial, same identical music as the FM side was doing at that time. Well, then, you know how people switch in radio. Well, I got moved to 10 to 2 at night.
Okay.
So I started working 10 to 2 at night. Now, the natural progression would be 6 to 10. The 6 to 10 guy was Dick Bremer, who is the Minnesota Twins broadcast
I was going to say.
Yes.
He was on KCLD?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. When I started there, he was there. He was very good. And he called himself Duke in the Dark. And we still keep in contact, too.
Radio names are hilarious.
He came up for the Minnesota Twins Winter Caravan a couple of times. And I'm standing in there in the VIP room, and Dick walks in and he goes, John, we talked for a half hour. He goes, I suppose I better. I said, yeah, you should probably go up there. But it was good seeing him. And I ran into him in the St. Cloud State Husky game one time, and we talked for a while, too. Just a wonderful man. Really knows what he's doing. Loves sports. That was his big thing. But he worked. And then I did not go to 6 to 10. They moved me to middays. So from 10 to 2 at night, I went to 10 to 2 in the afternoon. This is all within 3-4 months.
Oh, my gosh. That's a lot of hopping around for that short time span.
Yeah, it was. And then somebody left, so they put me in afternoon drive. And then they put Gary Lee on mornings. Now, at the time, I was living at Jock House. There were 4 announcers that rented a house on the southeast in South St. Cloud, not far from the campus. And Gary had a problem of getting up in the morning. He was late all the time. And I was now engaged to my wife. I should tell that story of how that happened, to tell you the truth. But I don't want to backtrack right now. And I'm in there, and Jack Hansen is just screaming at Gary, you're late one more time. I got to fire you. He says, my God, that's been like 6 times in 3 weeks you've been late. I don't know what you're doing at night. Well, he was out partying. Anyway, I overheard it, and I walked in. I said, hey, Gary, I'll do mornings. You could do afternoons if you want. Gary says, you'd do that for me? I went, well, yeah. I mean, we live together. I said, you're young. You want to get out? I'm engaged. I'm not going to be out partying. Jack looks, and he goes, starting tomorrow, you're doing mornings. You're doing afternoons. You're late again. You're fired, And that's how I started doing mornings over there. And that went from, I suppose at the time it would have been late 78, early 79, until I left in 94. 16 years.
That's a long time. I know when I first started here, I told my parents, oh yeah, John Uran took me out for lunch during my first interview. And my parents are like John Uran from KCLD took you out to lunch?
I will always be that, which is strange.
You're a staple to people.
But that was 16 years back when music was incredible, promotion was incredible, and I did more live remotes. And then I had a DJ business like you currently do. I was doing high schools. I was doing weddings, and I did weddings for 41 years.
It's a lot of weddings.
It is, but it was a lot of fun. I mean, I enjoyed doing them, and it's great extra income, although my accountant hated it. But it was just good times back then. But, yeah, I will always be, I've been here longer than I was there, almost twice as long. And I still, I listen to you at KCLD. You're old.
But it was just the height of music, like that
was.
stretch from the late 70s to the mid-90s, just hit after hit after hit. That's why the River 96.7 does so well in St. Cloud, because it's all that music that everyone grew up on.
That's the station I listen to, hon.
It's such a good station.
I joke because I say I made all of those songs hits. I like I love listening to them.
And that's back when you guys I assume, had a little more control over the music too?
No, which was tough, I mean, you get requests all the time. But, yeah, well, you played that an hour and a half ago. You record them saying it, and then when it does come up in that 3.5-hour rotation, you play that back so it sounds like it. But I had a lot of fun with people calling in, recording them. Sometimes I put people on live, which should not have happened sometimes. I used to do a wake-up call, morning wake-up call. People would send postcards in, and it was a birthday wake-up call. I always say on the air, give me some stuff to work on, phone number, name, how old they're going to be, what's the occasion, whatever. There was a teacher from Paula High School that was retiring. It was his final day of school of teaching. And the students and the faculty had this all arranged. I was to call him at 6 o'clock in the morning and wake him up, tell him that a limo will be there to pick him up at 7, and that he is going to school in style for his last day. So this was live. It's ringing and ringing and ringing, and I'm going, this guy's really a heavy sleeper or something. All at once, a woman answers the phone. She goes, hello? I said, yeah, I forgot the teacher's name. Is Bill there? Bill? Yeah, Bill. Yeah, he's here. Bill, it's for you. And as she's handing him the phone, you could tell that they're laying in bed. He says, holy shit, it's 6 o'clock in the morning. Hello? Well, this was really subdued because it was not right in his face.
Yeah.
The kids were recording this all day. They would crank up the volume when he said, holy.
Oh, no.
He called the radio station 3 times to apologize for swearing on the air. And he called me a couple of times, too, after that. He said, thank you for just making, that was such a wonderful day. But they even took him out to dinner that night. So this guy really must have been loved.
That's really special.
And I would call people in Montana people would go hunting from here, out mule deer hunting out in Montana. And they wanted me to call this guy up and then tell stories of what he did. I guess that he would strip buck naked. He didn't care if it was men or women, and just jump in the river and give himself a bath at night. And you can't say that on the radio. I didn't say anything bad. I just said that it's truth,
Yeah, just telling a story.
Yeah, but it was fun stuff like that. And I love doing remotes. The Great River Raft Race was the party of the summer. And
What was that?
I was in charge of that. That was, I think Jack Hansen started this. He did it for 2 years and then just gave it to me. It was at Pirates Cove, which is burnt down. And then Stearns County Park, which was like 2.5, 3 miles up the river on the west side of the river, was Stearns County Park. So we'd have a speed category and a creative category. Speed would always go first, and we'd go off in heats. And they would get in their homemade rafts, and they would zip all the way down to the finish line at Pirates Cove. Now, that didn't take them long, but the creative was really some elaborate, weird things. And there were thousands and thousands and thousands of people there, and there was live music. Well, when Wheels, Wings, and Water Festival started, we were already 5 years into this. They asked us to move this event to be part of the Wheels, Wings, now it's Granite City Days. So we moved it into late June, and it lasted 2 more years. And then I think they made it a non-alcoholic. And then we just said, no, okay, that's enough of that.
Took all the booze out of it, took out all the fun.
Yeah. And I was glad, because that was basically 3 months of more than 40 hours a week.
Prep work and getting ready for a massive event like that. I don't think people realize when they go to things that, especially things of that scale, there's months of work that go into it. Preparations for things like festivals and events, like you start the day after it ends.
Yeah. There was a guy named Alex Kroska who's still a good friend. Alex owned Kroska Datsun at the time, and then he sold that off, which became Nissan, of course. In the car business, he's retired now. Alex had a jet boat, and he was one of the patrol boats. And after all the heats went off, I could take a break. So I'm up at Stearns County Park. Now I want to go back to the Pirates Cove. So I hopped in with Alex because he was one of the guys there. And he says, well, where are you going? I said, I just have to go down to Pirates Cove. So we zipped down to Pirates Cove at a nice pace. We made sure not wakes around the rafts and stuff. But we get to the cove. He goes, well, do you want to go for a ride? I said, I looked at my watch. Yeah, I got a little time. Let's go. South of the river, no holds barred. He just puts this thing to the floor. I don't know how fast we were going, but that was a V8 engine in that thing. We were screaming down the Mississippi River, and all at once he goes, hey, you want to see my brakes? I said, sure. He slams it in reverse. That reverses the jets. The river is now 3 feet above me because the boat is underneath it, and the water all came caving in on the boat, and all the bilge pumps go off. And in about 5 minutes, we're fine. We were absolutely drenched.
Oh, my gosh.
That's brown water. But I will never let him forget that. I have never been soaked to the bone like that.
I suppose everything you had on you for the event.
Oh, yeah. I was completely drenched. He thought it was funny. And then one of the Stearns County Water Patrol came up, gave him a ticket, and said, you won't be doing this next year or from here on out. So that was the last time he did that.
Ooh.
One and only time. He did it. He was fine with it. But he loves it when I tell that story. But that's a true story.
Daredevils.
So I have to tell you about Deb, my wife.
Yes,
who's
please.
put up with me for 43 years. When I was selling in Litchfield, the Mad Hatter came into a sales meeting one morning, and he says, John? I go, yeah, Hatter. He says, there are 22 beauty salons in Litchfield. All I need you to do is sell 5, 1 commercial a week. $20 a week. Just sell 5 of them for a show that they were doing with block programming. So I went out. I got no's all the time. I went to this place on Highway 12 in Litchfield called Beauty Haven. And I walked in, and there was a young brunette woman in there. Hi, how are you? I said, I'm fine. And I told her who I was and asked if she wanted to buy some advertising. And she goes, yeah, sure. So she signed the contract. I just said, you cut guys' hair? Sure do. Sit down. So I got my hair cut. And that was about it at the time. But about 2 weeks later, she was out to eat with her mom and her boyfriend. And I just walked up and started talking with her. And I said, why don't you hang out with me? I'll take you home. And from there, we started dating. And my mom and dad were married on May 12th. My wife and I were also married on May 12th in 1979, 43 years ago. She still puts up with me. Believe me.
Is she still cutting your hair, though? That's the big question.
No, she stopped that about 20 years ago. But she cut hair for a long time, but she sold the beauty shop and then started working up here in St. Cloud. And then we started having kids, and she started taking care of them. And that was, we never had daycare, really, just a couple hours a day, because she would work for an insurance agent from like 1 o'clock to 8 o'clock. And I was pretty much wrapped up at 1. I'd go pick the kids up or whatever and go home with them. Have fun, beat on them.
It's a good system if you can avoid those daycare costs, especially in radio. Because, I mean, like when you're on the on-air side, you're not making a killing. The sales side's where you make all the real deal money.
Sure.
So, like, if you can save on daycare costs, that's huge.
And that's the absolute truth. That's how I got hired over here, because I had left KCLD. I was too old for the format, so I was asked to leave. And then you're a true veteran once you're canned in radio. And I worked for the Power Loon, which was an Inkstead station at Crossroads Mall for a year. And then another company had bought them out. But at the time, I didn't know that sale was going on. Steve Stewart was over here with Andy Hilger. And I came in for an interview. 94.9, Mix 94.9 was an oldies station playing 50s and 60s. And he wanted me to do mornings on the oldies station. And asked, well, what do you have to have? So I gave him a number, and he says, okay, can you come back next Friday? And I said, sure. Well, over at the Power Loon, I was really bored, so I took a rate card one day and asked if I could sell. You can't sell any of these on the protected list. So I looked at the protected list, which was pretty much everybody that advertised, but I found 4 businesses that weren't, and I sold them all within 2 weeks. And it was a relationship, so I knew the people. So the next time I come in for that Friday, I'm wearing a suit. And Steve Stewart says, "Why are you all dressed up?" I said, "Oh, I'm selling." "You're selling?" I said, "Yeah." "How's it going?" I said, "Actually, pretty good." He says, "I was going to tell you today that I can't afford you. Can you come back next Friday?" I said, "Sure." So I came back next Friday, and he goes, "Okay, this is a hybrid model. So you're going to do the morning show on Mix, and then this is a set group of accounts that is going to guarantee you X amount of dollars per year. So your salary for being on the air is going to be this, plus your commission will be this. I am going to over what you ask to have." And I said, "I'll take it. Sounds like fun." I got to do mornings on oldies with a guy I grew up listening to, Mike Dime. And you get to know your morning partner so well. I had so many morning partners, and we gelled for the most part. But this guy, we knew each other so well that we could actually finish each other's sentences. When I was doing remotes at Gilliland or Baston Chevrolet at the time, Mike Dime from WJON was also doing a remote. We would interview each other just for fun.
From each of your remotes?
Sure.
Oh, my gosh.
I'd be on his station, and then I'd ask him questions, and he would be on KCLD with me. We used to do crap like that quite often, but Mike and I got along very well. And then, of course, Andy retired and sold the company, and Mike retired. And Mike now lives in Pawleys Island, which is next to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. We still talk occasionally. We still text each other occasionally. And I really need to get out there and go golfing with him, because we used to do that every day, because I would work till 2. And the kids are in school, or Deb was working or whatever, and then we'd go do 9 holes at Angershire, or 9 holes at Veterans, or 9 holes, whatever. But we played golf a lot.
That's awesome.
It was a lot of fun.
It's nice when you can find a morning show partner that you really get along with, because you are stuck in a room that's like 10 by 10 for 5-6 hours a day together. It really helps to like that person.
Deb, my wife, could never understand why I was totally exhausted when I got off the air. Your brain is going so fast, especially when you have a morning partner, because you're constantly conversing back and forth off air what you're going to say next. And then the mics goes on and the magic happens. And this goes on for 4 hours. And when you are done, you are physically wiped out. Mm-hmm. Then you got to recharge for a couple of hours. And then you're good to go again. I just can't believe you sit on your butt and you turn a mic on and you talk and you say you're so damn tired. I went, yes.
The mental drain is insane. People don't understand that. They think it's just you turn on the microphone and you chit-chat, and then you turn it off, and then you just do whatever you're doing.
And then, you let the magic happen, and weird things will pop into my mind or my mouth, and I'll say crap on the air that, is okay, but it's my personality. It's just strange stuff. Mm-hmm. It's weird,
It just is what it is.
Anybody ever ask you how you get into radio?
Ask me how I got into it? Basically, what happened with me is I was in high school, and my high school and our county had a drinking problem with teenagers. Oh. So my mom worked for public health, and we were granted $1 million from the state of Minnesota to help curb that problem and try to fix it and give kids things to do. So we did a lot of pilot testing. There were so many surveys that I had to hand out, because with my mom working at public health and me working part-time for University of Minnesota Extension, I was just familiar with working in that setting. So I got put in charge of this group. Well, we sat down and we're like, well, what can we do to just initially get the word out about this project? And I said, well, everyone listens to KCLD. Why don't we go buy some radio ads and put them on KCLD? So since it was my idea, I was the one that had to come down to St. Cloud from Long Prairie and voice those ads. And so I did that, and we were heading home from there, and I was probably 15, 16 years old, and I said, well, obviously someone's getting paid to make those. Why can't it be me? And from there, I just started Googling where to go to school for radio, and Brown College popped up, and went to Brown, flew through that in 9 months, was one of the last to graduate before they got shut down from bankruptcy.
I know.
Yeah, that was a rough little go.
At the time that I graduated, you could not find a radio station in the United States or Canada that did not have at least one graduate from Brown.
I know, and it has this huge legacy, and that's what I was expecting when I went there. There were 8 kids in my class.
Oh, wow.
There were 8 of us, and I was one of like 3 that actually pursued radio after college.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't remember how many were in my class. I only know about 3 of us that were in it in like 5-10 years afterwards.
Yeah, it was pitiful by the time I went, which I was expecting like, yes, this is going to be a college experience. And then I got there and everyone is like having their midlife crisis in my class. I'm the youngest person there.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, this is not what I thought college was going to be. But it worked out well because even though I learned some stuff at college, I credit more of my learning to on-the-job experience.
Yep.
I got my internship through college at 93X Cumulus down in Minneapolis. I did a year there in promotions and overnights, and then I got hired up in St. Cloud. So,
Wow, that's cool.
yeah, not exactly what I was expecting for my college life, but I kind of feel like I sent in 3 box tops and got a degree. But
Good way to put it.
it's, yeah, plus some student loans to go with it. But
I was, way back then, it was albums and 45s that we were queuing up. I was working a Saturday afternoon. This would have been probably 79, maybe 78. I don't remember. And, of course, the station door was always unlocked. Normally, there were like 2 of us in the building. I just went walking back during a record, and I saw a guy, come in. And I said, "Hi, can I help you?" And he says, "You the guy on the air?" I said, "Yeah." And he says, "Well, I sort of toy in radio a little bit. I just wonder if you got a playlist, top 40 list? Sure, come on. You want to come in the studio? You'd let me in the studio? You're not going to say anything, are you?" He goes, "No." I said, "Yeah, come on up." So I bring him into the studio and sit down. I hand him the playlist. I said, "So you toy in radio?" He says, "Yeah." He says, "A little bit." I said, "Where?" He goes, "Down in the Twin Cities." Now, I have a Chicago album, and I'm ready to cue this up. And he's asking all these questions, and I said, "Who are you?" He said, "I'm Lou Baron. I'm the general manager of KDWB." And I dropped the album and rolled over it with a chair. And I said, "It's good to meet you." He says, "I want to hire you." I said, "What?" He goes, "I would like to hire you." He says, "I really like the way you sound on the air." He gave me his card. He says, "I'm on my way to Brainerd for my 2-week family vacation. Will you give me a call in 2 weeks?" And I said, "Sure." Now, I was not married at the time. And I did. And he said, "Come down for an interview, meet Dave Hamilton." So I drove down there for an interview. And I'm waiting in the receptionist area. And not knowing protocol, whatever, I'm waiting there for about 15 minutes, just sitting there. I said, "Is Lou in?" And Lou? I said, "Yeah, Lou Baron." "Yeah." Nobody asked for the manager. She says, "Lou, there's a guy that just asked for you." "What's his name?" "John Uran." "Oh, yeah, tell him come on back." So I go back, and I'm sitting in Lou's office making small talking, and all at once Dave Hamilton walks in. And Lou says, "You're late." I went, "Oh, whoops." I just got this guy in trouble.
oh my gosh.
So he takes me to the office. He says, "I don't even know who in the heck you are. All I know is my boss wants me to hire you. So this is what we're willing to offer you. You're going to start on overnights, and then maybe we'll get to know each other a little bit if you wanted a job." I said, "Can I think about it?" And he said, "Yeah, I guess." I said, "Okay." And no, I was just married at the time. It was summer of 79. If I would have taken the job, I would have tripled my salary at the time. But my wife was still working at that beauty shop. So she was driving 40 miles one way and 40 miles back. And for us to uproot everything, move to the Twin Cities, I just think would have been not the right decision at that time. So I turned it down. But I did see Lou over the years. Over the years, I did keep in contact with him till he passed away from cancer about 5-6 years ago. But it's sort of a cool story.
Imagine how your life would have been different had you and Deb decided, let's give this a go.
Yeah, but I don't have any regrets. It's been an incredible career, absolutely phenomenal career. We raised 3 great kids. We have 4 awesome grandkids. We both all of us love hockey. You know that.
Oh, yeah. You guys are hockey crazy.
My son played. My grandsons played. One of the announcers for Norseman, and I have season tickets to the Huskies, so there's not very many weekends that I'm not on the ice, so to speak. But, yeah, been a great career. I don't know what I'll do in the future.
More hockey games? I don't know. More golfing?
Oh, I hope to golf a lot. I'm going to get you out on the golf course.
We got to get out.
And I thought maybe someday we'd have a show together, but that's not going to gel.
No, not with me leaving.
Or me.
Yeah. Both of us
there it goes.
saying sayonara. You had a little more time in it than me. I jumped ship early, but
Yeah.
you get those opportunities and you just can't pass them up if they're too good, you know?
You have to do the thing that's right for you at the time and for your future and for your family.
Yeah.
And you're doing the right thing.
I sure hope
Absolutely.
so.
Yeah. I got a feeling your social media is going to explode.
One can only hope. I've been trying this dang internet.
And your podcasts, I think, are going to be awesome. I know I probably broke format with the small town tourist, but
You're the most on format guest I've had.
I've listened to your first two, and they're both very good, very well done.
I've been having a lot of luck finding really solid guests, and I think that's the key to building any sort of, whether it's a radio show or a podcast or writing a story, is finding the right resource. And I've just been striking gold left and right with the people I've been asking to be on, you yourself included.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Stay true to yourself, stay honest, and have fun.
Thanks for listening to the Small Town Tourist Podcast. I'm your host, Abby Minky Graves. Our theme song is That's My Hometown by Aaron Simmons. You can find him online, aaronsimmonsmusic.com, and wherever you stream music. Be sure to check out the blog, thesmalltowntourist.com, and follow on Instagram @thesmalltowntourist.